Al McFarlane. Welcome to the Conversation with Al McFarlane. I'm glad to be here and glad to have you along as well. Today is Thursday, May 24th, 2023. What a beautiful day here in Minnesota, and beautiful for a number of reasons. Among them, I think we've had a beautifully productive legislative session. The legislature adjourned yesterday, and for the next several days, we'll be talking about many of the accomplishments of this unusual legislative session. Unusual because it was called the trifecta: the governor's office, the Senate, and the House, all controlled by the Democratic Party, the DFL, and all able to successfully bring forth budget and program initiatives that many are calling transformational. We'll be talking about that, but I think that's one of the things that makes this a beautiful day. The other thing is that it's moving into a time where we reflect even more on the meaning of the loss of life, the martyrdom, in effect, of George Floyd. I think tomorrow represents the second 2-year anniversary of the death of George Floyd over in South Minneapolis. We'll be talking about that as well. What it means, how our lives have changed, what the impact has been on us here locally in Minnesota, but also on people around the world. As I said, the experience was transformational. It wasn't unique, but it was unique at the same time because everybody in the world felt it, saw it in one way or another. Well, before I begin today, I want to invite you to support this program, to go to YouTube Insight News channel. It's YouTube Insight News MN, and become a subscriber. We're looking to get 1,000 subscribers to grow our base of support and our community of conversation. We want you to be a part of that. You do it by going to YouTube Insight News MN. Simply subscribe. Of course, we want you to like it and to share as well. We are generating this conversation across several platforms. We're on YouTube, both the YouTube channel of Black Press USA. Shout out to the National Newspaper Publishers Association. I'm a member of that. And they are hosting these programs on StreamYard. But we're also, as I said, streaming on the Insight News channel at YouTube. Also, we stream live to Twitter. We stream live to 3 platforms in Facebook, the Black Press USA Facebook page, the Insight News Facebook page, and the Al McFarlane Facebook page, and finally LinkedIn. So you could be checking us out from anywhere, wherever you are. We appreciate you. Drop us a note in the comment sections. Tell us who you are and where you are, and let us thank you for being a part of this. But also, finally, please go over to the YouTube Insight News channel and be a subscriber. Thank you so much. We want to begin too by acknowledging and thanking or letting you know that these conversations are made possible by our partnership with the Minnesota Department of Health, and in particular, its initiative to create awareness about COVID-19. And so we're going to be talking over the days and weeks, months ahead about ways to keep COVID-19 prevention and COVID-19 response top of mind. 2 things. We want to keep reminding you that vaccination works and that you should be vaccinated, and you can get vaccinated anywhere in Minnesota. Vaccinations are free, and we just want you to think that even though the emergency has been ended, the danger still exists, and the best response for you as an individual or for the public is to be vaccinated. And then we want to also encourage you to look at other protocols, like just basic safety, health protocols, hand washing, doing things that can keep you safe, keep you from getting infected, things that make your life better all around. Well, with that, let me go on into today's program. And I'm pleased to have present Kizzy Downey. Kizzy Downey is the CEO of Model Cities in St. Paul. And our intention is that Kizzy will be joining me and brother Braxton Haulcy, who is the leader over at the Walker West Music Academy. And they've got a collaboration that is phenomenal. It's excellent. And we want to discuss that. But until we get Braxton's technology working. Kizzy and I are going to start this conversation. Good afternoon, sister. How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Well, welcome to the conversation. So good to see you. And, let's start off by just giving people Model Cities 101. Your institution is one of the legacy institutions in the Black community in St. Paul. And in fact, the Model Cities movement, a legacy movement around the country. So give people a background on Model Cities St. Paul.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Model Cities is, we actually turned 55 years old last year. So we've been around for a very long time. And a lot of folks are familiar with Model Cities because we really started as a organization that was really focused on addressing health access issues among residents in the Summit University neighborhood. So we started in the 60s, during a time where, much like today, there were a lot of issues impacting our community. And there were, folks who were just really concerned about the conditions of folks in our community, and particularly the health conditions. And so they came together and started what was supposed to be like a pilot that ended up continuing. The organization at one point was a federally qualified, health center, but Model Cities has actually evolved from kind of our work as a health organization. Like, I like to think of our work today as taking care of the social and economic health of the community versus kind of the physical health. So back in the 90s, Model Cities went through a transition. And so the work that we were doing around, health access. So we were a primary healthcare center. A lot of people that grew up in the Twin Cities and in St. Paul in particular know Model Cities because they will say, "Oh, I went there for my healthcare. I went to the dentist at Model Cities." But in the late 90s, the organization actually went through a transition, in the healthcare work that we were doing kind of broke off from the organization. And that work has continued with Open Cities Health Center. But Model Cities kept the name. And then we began to do more work around housing, working with youth, community development work. And so that's who we are today. So our roots began around primary health care, but now we're focused on a much broader context of health as it relates to our community.
Well, people know you now for the Brownstones Project. Tell me about that, because you say Brownstone St. Paul, you say Model Cities. Talk about that.
Yes. Well, the Brownstone was actually, it was a very ambitious project for our organization. And it was really the blood, sweat, and tears of a lot of folks, but particularly my predecessor, Dr. Beverly Oliver Hawkins, who led the organization for 34 years before she retired in 2018 and before I moved into this position. And that work on the Brownstone really began almost a decade before the project was completed. Brownstone is a mixed-use real estate development project that includes 35 units of affordable rental units. There's about 20,000 square feet of commercial space. So Model Cities, our offices are housed at the Brownstone, and then we lease about 10,000 square feet of retail space to local business owners, entrepreneurs who are looking to start or expand their businesses. And all of the businesses that are currently at the Brownstone are all Black or other people of color business owners. And so the project really was an opportunity for us to really show what community development can look like for an organization who's rooted in the community and who's creating housing opportunities and commercial or economic development opportunities to keep and attract businesses to stay in our community, to help provide jobs and provide revenue and resources to better support our community. So the building was completed in 2017. So it's been up and running for a little over 5 years, and we've been really proud of the work that we've been able to do through that development project.
Well, you've got a unique relationship with Brother Braxton Haulcy and the people over at the Walker West Academy. Now, we may have some challenges keeping Brother Haulcy on screen, but we're going to try to bring him in right now, first of all. And if we lose him, you know that we're trying to do our best with technology. Brother Braxton, good to see you, man. How are you?
Oh, good to be here, Al, and Kizzy, it's good to see you as well.
Yes.
So you've got a unique and wonderful relationship with Model Cities in the service of our community in a lane that you have created and expanded, and that's teaching our community about music, art, and culture. Talk about what's going on with the Walker West Academy.
Oh, yes, definitely. And even before I even get into that, I do want to say I've had a unique relationship with Model Cities for 30 years because I used to sit on the Model Cities board. And so I was on the board when Dr. Hawkins was there. So it was just easy for Kizzy and I to have conversations and decide to work together. So that, that wasn't easy. But Walker West has been around for 35 years, founded by the legendary Reverend Carl Walker and Grant West. And what I always tell people that just shocks people all the time is that when they opened up the school in 1988, the crack cocaine epidemic was starting at that time, and it started in Rondo. And they literally opened up that school to get the kids off the street and to get them into something more life affirming like music, and to put them in a safe space. And so for 35 years, the organization has quietly grown. I came to Walker West at the tail end of 2018. And in 2018, we started on a strategic plan to kind of transform Walker West into an organization that engages more in the community and covers all ages. And so that strategic plan has resulted in us growing from a budget of about $450,000 at the tail end of 2018 to a budget of over $2 million this year. And so a lot of the things that we talked about in that strategic plan included having a new building because we were running out of space. At the same time, our landlord reminded us that our lease expired in 2024 and it wasn't going to be renewed because he wants to expand it with the other co-tenant. So with that said, we quickly moved into operations mode and started putting together the pieces to acquire a building.
Well, it must be like, you were made for the times. You bring in a wealth of management and business experience to an organization that had a phenomenal record as a creative resource in the community. And what it needed was the Braxton Haulcy impact, right? To grow it into what it is becoming now. Is that a fair assessment?
Well, I guess what I will say, Al, is that it takes a village and it takes a team, because the village is Kizzy at Model Cities. That's part of the community and the village. And Kizzy just pretty much said, hey, we're not going to let Walker West miss this opportunity because the legislature is moving slow. We're going to take care of this. And then the other piece of it is, the team that I have has really been excited by the growth, and their talent and their commitment to the community has just made this a fun ride, an exhausting ride, but a fun ride.
So talk about the collaboration right now, the new building. Tell us about it. Invite us to know it. And to
Yeah, well, I'm sitting in it right now.
Oh, that's where you are.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. And that's why the internet is probably bad because we haven't had a chance to flush out everything. Yeah, we're moving out from 6,000 square feet at 760 Selby to about 17,000 square feet at the 650 Marshall location.
So both locations are significant. Tell us about the significance and history of the Selby location, first of all, what it was before you guys moved into it, what you made it into, and now talk about the place you're moving into the same way.
Oh, great. I like the way you framed that. You hear many stories about the 760 location because at one time it was controlled data, it was an arts and visual school, and it was something else. But at the end of 2013, our previous executive director, Peter Leggett, decided to gather more space and purchase the building cat a corner from the Avon location. And so, again, we were running out of space. We didn't, had people on the waiting list, students and families on the waiting list. And so that move allowed us to grow more students. I think we went maybe from 100 students to 150, 160 students. And so we have been in that location for almost 10 years. 10 years will be 2024. And we've had concerts, we've had recitals, and it's a nice space. And many of the musicians that come in town, like Terrence Blanchard, who did a master class, they all walk in there and they say, we like the vibe of this place. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times people don't realize that the vibe that's created was created by Reverend Walker and Grant West, because they're musicians. And so true musicians really like to hang out with other musicians. And the way that we've taught with the improvisational framework, in addition to classical, really gives a lot of, especially Black musicians, the opportunities to find employment and to be engaged in working with our students and families in the community. And one of the things that's really not known well is that Walker West, about 80 to 85% of our faculty are Black men. And you will not go across this country and see 30 Black men in the same location working with our children.
Amazing.
That's phenomenal. And it's a nurturing place. And because, Reverend Walker and Grant are spiritual people, when they talk about vibe, that's what they're talking about, the spirit of the place, the spirit that makes people want to go there, and then that's important. And so, that vibe has continued, but we have run out of space. We have 200 people, students on the waiting list. This location will allow us to serve, we're serving 300 students per week now. This location will allow us to serve at least 500 students per week, and broaden our reach, and do a number of things that we weren't able to do in the other location.
So maybe you can, if it'll work, give us a walking tour. I don't know. You want to try that? It's risky, but if you let me know if you can do it or not.
I'm willing to do it. I don't know what you're going to see.
Well, yeah. Neither do I, obviously. But let's do that.
Okay. All right. Well, good. I think I'm going to walk outside and maybe if that's possible, and let you see the entrance of the building.
Yeah. And while you're doing that, let me ask Kizzy again. How important, is this move from your point of view? Because we didn't get to the question what the new building is, but we'll get to that when he's outside showing it to us. But what's it mean to you, Kizzy Downey, and to Model Cities?
It meant a lot. Like I like to think of the work that we do as an organization as kind of the, like when I compare the work that Walker West does and the work that we do, I think about it as like the art and the science. And, I think that you need, communities need, artistic spaces. You need places where we can connect, where we can, kind of have a place to just kind of have fun, enjoy making music, and, having those kinds of spaces is what kind of gives your community heart. And then the work that we do is more like the science. Like we're addressing a lot of real complex issues around homelessness and housing, and economic and community, wealth creation. And so like having the opportunity to use our, skill sets and the work that we've been doing for 50 years to now support an organization like Walker West, who's a tremendous asset for our community, to be able to make sure that their dream can become a reality like that means a lot to us. And that really, to me, is what community development is all about. It's looking at multiple ways that we create opportunities for our communities to thrive. Sometimes that means building a building that has housing. Sometimes it means having institutions like Walker West integrated into your community to make sure that you have a balance of the things you need and the things we desire and want in our community as well.
Kizzy, thank you so much for joining us. And we've got other commitments to go to, so I'm going to let you go. But we're going to have you come back again to go more into all the wealth of opportunity created by and served by model cities in St. Paul. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Hey, thanks, Kizzy.
Thank you, Braxton.
And Brother Braxton, I see you're in position. So take us on the tour, brother.
Yeah, okay. This is the outside of the building. Again, 16,000 square feet. The inside, we're going to do a lot of reconfiguration there, but I just want to show you the outside, the exterior of it. And then I also want to show you there's a garden in the back. And so I'm going to see if I can figure out how to get to the garden.
Mm-hmm. Now, what's the address of the new building?
It's 650 Marshall Avenue.
And what was in that building before?
It was the Wilder Foundation Center for Aging.
Okay.
And so it was like an adult daycare.
Okay. Okay.
And we actually had some collaborations with the adult daycare. And when they vacated the building in 2020, we actually did our summer music camp in the building. So we're very, we're familiar. And then the board came in and looked at it and said, Braxton, this is the building that we need to have.
Mm.
And at the same time, our treasurer, Amy Herta, was the chief financial officer for Wilder. And so she told us about the building and advocated for us to get the building.
Oh, that's so great. That's so great. Did you expect that things would go as smoothly as they did in getting the building? What was your experience? Were there challenges, and how have you overcome them?
Well, I guess the only challenge is that, we're always resource stretched. And so, we didn't have, $2.5 million just sitting in the bank. And so we had to really negotiate with Wilder to give us a number of purchase extensions so that we could launch the capital campaign and start putting together the money for it. And then Model Cities just came when we were just a little short on the purchase price. And they said, okay, we're going to purchase this building for you. I'm trying to get into the area, but I'm going to show you kind of the garden area here. And we're going to have concerts. We're going to build this into a I don't know if we could call it an atrium or palladium or whatever, where we can do concerts in the summer.
Beautiful.
Outside. But Model Cities basically provided a bridge loan for us to get into the building until we could get money from the state. And, getting money from the state wasn't easy because we were in the bill last year and it stalled. And so we got back in the bill this year. And I guess I'm very fortunate because I had Jeff Hayden as our lobbyist at Frederickson and Byron. And Jeff had written the original cash equity bill that was put out a couple of years ago. And so he was very familiar with how to navigate that and make sure that, that we got in the bill and that we could get cash instead of being saddled with a lot of debt and having a big mortgage.
So you were able to get some money out of this current legislature that just ended?
Yeah, we got 4.1 million.
Oh, congratulations. Fantastic.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of what I was saying at the beginning of the program. That's one of the reasons that I call this a beautiful day, because a number of organizations and agencies and businesses can find themselves connected to a lot of the revenue streams that are coming out of the decisions made by the legislature this year in a way that's substantively different from the past. And you explained it last year. You said you were in a bill, but the bill stalled and everything you had to do was delayed or challenged. But now, thanks to your being able to access resources like, Jeff Hayden and others, you're able to be in a position to benefit and to be the recipient of funding from the state. That's a beautiful thing. 4 million.
Yeah, 4 million, it's a blessing. I'll
Yeah.
just put it that way. It's a definite blessing, and I will say that I don't want to say I'm lucky. I just think God is just kind of like saying, "Hey, Braxton,
Mhm.
make this move, make this move, make this move," and I'm just kind of following His footsteps, and things have just kind of laid themselves out really well. In terms of things just happening, I was disappointed last year when the bill was stalled, but we actually ended up with more money because last year when we asked for about half of what we're getting, what we're getting now, and so we sat for another year and then came back, and Jeff said, "Let's ask for more money because you're in a different place, right now." And so it's worked out very good, and all of this, Al, is about community.
Mhm.
It's all about community. And I think that if there's any key takeaway from any of this is that um, Black organizations can come together and do something big.
That's right. That's right.
And this is big. I mean, if model cities wouldn't have stepped in and purchased this building,
Mhm.
Wilder would have went to somebody else
Mhm.
and they would have got the building. But Kizzy was gracious enough to say, "Hey, Braxton, I believe in you. Let us, do this bridge transaction, and then, when you get money from the legislator, you can pay us back, and you can keep growing and keep moving."
That's amazing. And so it's a model of how we should be with each other and for each other. Number one, it's
Right.
phenomenal that she had a sufficiently resourced organization to even approach you and not only say this is a great idea, but I'm going to do it. We can
Right.
do it, and that is really, really kind of new, I think, in certain ways in our community, for us to have the assets that we can bring into play to leverage more assets for community benefit. Would you say that or not?
Yes, definitely. It's great. I mean, I'm hoping that more Black organizations see this transaction and start saying we should be doing something similar if we want to grow, if we want to do this, if we want to do that. We can always pull our resources together, pull our networks together, and work together to get the things that we want for our community, because only we know what's best for our community.
That's right.
And so when we come together, I mean, even though when I look at the Reconnect Rondo and Keith Baker,
Hmm.
I mean, just pulling together all of these organizations to benefit our community, that we need to see more and more of that. And I know one of the things that I did when I first came to Walker West is, we were kind of operating in these silos. And I just kind of told the team, we can't continue to operate in these silos. We got to get out and about. We got to engage in our community. And now we have an initiative called Walker West Without Walls. And that means we do programming outside of 760 Selby.
Hmm.
Quite frankly, and people wouldn't believe me if I told them this, because my team has come a long ways. We're actually running a program in St. Cloud.
Amazing.
Yeah, because their demographics have totally changed, and they call out to Walker West and ask Walker West if they could come in there and help engage their Black and Brown and Somali students
Mhm.
with our methods of teaching.
Interesting. So I got a gazillion questions. Every time you say something, it reminds me to ask you 4 or 5 more things. So I have to sort out and prioritize the questions. But first of all, thank you so much for being here, and thank you for doing what you do, for the service that you've given to Walker West, and for the service that Walker West gives to our community and to our state. So on behalf of, I think, the citizens of Minnesota and people of our community, gratitude and thank you for that. I want to acknowledge you for that. That's number one. Number two, one of the things you mentioned earlier, I think, is that you started off kind of in the classic sense, a place where adults taught kids music. And what that brought to my mind was a picture of Al McFarlane as a 7-year-old going to Dr. Kilpatrick's house for piano lessons, right?
Okay,
And
right,
as an adult, sending my kids to Mr. Darby's house around the corner to take piano lessons, right? And
right.
so, and that's kind of how I envisioned you all taking the enterprise of teaching music to children another level by having a facility that could have formal, classrooms and individual classrooms. But then more than that, you've also expanded the vision and the work to include all generations. I
Right.
thought that was phenomenal. Talk about that. What does it mean? And how do you do that? How do you serve the entire community across generations?
Well, the philosophy I take, Al, is that music is healing for everyone.
Mm.
It's healing for everyone. If you look at the babies, McPhail just finished a major study that was done by the University of Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
And and I used to sell research. And one of the things I used to sell was a thing called structural equation modeling.
Okay.
And what structural equation modeling does is it parses out correlation and causation. And so when you can parse those things out, you can really say this is exactly what this does.
Mm-hmm.
And with their research, they found that music for infants as young as 6 weeks old helps in brain development and impulse control. And that's, it's clear. The research is clear. It's not like it's correlated. No, it's correlated and causated. And then on the flip side, I think you've been talking with Shauna Moses with the Amazing Grace Chorus,
Mm-hmm.
Our dementia-friendly chorus.
Mm-hmm.
Again, the brain, it's the healing. Music is healing. That the last thing that sets in your brain is memories of songs of your past. You don't forget that. That's the last. You may forget the rest of your family, but you might remember He's an on-time God.
That's right.
And so that just shows the healing power of music. And so if music is beneficial to all ages, then Walker West needs to be involved in all ages. And we need to be doing things intergenerationally. And we're talking about that as well. So, we have everything from we have a early childhood music program that we invented internally. We initially started out with McPhail and their Music for Family program.
Mm-hmm.
When COVID happened, they couldn't find any instructors. And so we decided to develop our program internally.
Mm-hmm.
And we have Diantha Chazaga, and she has a program called Homies in Harmony.
Ah.
And so the kids are there on Friday and Saturdays, and then she does something over at Phyllis Wheatley once a week. And then we're trying to get into Hallie Q. Brown, Jeremiah Project. And then my wife works at the Family Partnership. And so I'm talking to their early childhood people over there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's with the children. And then the school age kids, we try to get them involved in music, and we try to get them involved in instruments. And then we have my favorite class right now, which is the one I'm struggling with the most, but the National Basketball Association Foundation gave us $100,000 to reinvent and reimagine our digital music production program.
Wow.
And Al, the thing that I really like about this is everybody talks about how our kids are in trouble and our youth are in trouble. And to me, I used to sell displays at Walmart and Target, and the digital music production program is like the end cap display. Okay. It's the traffic builder. It's the one that's going to get kids excited. They may not want to pick up an instrument, but they want to put some music behind their beats. They want to create songs. They want to be songwriting. And so this particular program is my favorite because it's the program that, as Reverend Walker would say, let's trade the guns for the keyboards. Because this gets us into, okay, we're going to get you engaged in both art and technology. And then the other piece of this that we had with it that we told the MBA about, we have a collaboration with Hamline University, and they have where juniors and seniors can get college credits for taking the digital music production class. And so we're going to be partnering with Hamline, and we want to make this where it's not just music for music's sake. You can actually have a career in doing digital music, sound production, video production, media production. And there's not a lot of Black faces behind the scenes doing those type of things. And Walker West can be ground zero for getting our kids ready to get into those type of jobs, which are good paying jobs.
We ought to talk about having a partnership or a collaboration, maybe a training so that people can be producing the Conversation with Al McFarlane.
Right, definitely.
Training ground, to fit in and get practice and internships. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we want to do here.
Okay.
Once we get this building up and running, we're going to have state-of-the-art technology with streaming, with digital studios, recording studios, podcast studios, and we want the kids involved in the production and kids involved in everything that goes on at Walker West so that they can learn. And then Andy Luff, who is the production manager over at the Ordway, would like to help us with the kids and the production and things of that sort. So that's why it's my favorite program, because it's like, okay, let's get the kids off the streets. Let's get them into art and technology. Let's excite them about this. And then the other piece of it is, when I talk about the in-cap display, again, I sold at General Mills. And usually the consumer behavior is that you go to the in-cap display because it's a traffic builder. And then you walk in the aisle. Mm-hmm. And then you grab another product. Mm-hmm. And that's how they pick your product. Yeah, pick mm-hmm. your pockets. And so when the digital music production student goes to the in-cap display, they start off with the art and technology, but then they walk in the aisle. Oh, and here's an instrument. You really like this digital music? You need to learn how to play guitar. You need to learn how to play drums, because you can really get good at this, because you need to know what instruments really sound like, and you will know that if you get a chance to learn it. Mm-hmm. And so that's one of my favorites. But then, we are really putting a real big effort at adults, because we want more adults. We want elders, and we want young adults. And we recently brought in Lawrence Waddell, who used to be the keyboard player for Mint Condition. Mm-hmm. He was sitting on our board, and I just said, hey, why don't you come over and be staff? And you could help us out with some of these, some of the young adults and the older adults. And so now he's working hand in hand with Shauna Moses with the Amazing Grace Chorus to help with that program. And then he's also looking overall at other programs as well, adult programs.
You've dropped some jewels in terms of your professional training and careers. Let me go into that. What training brought you to this work? Because you've mentioned some great companies and some great projects where you use state-of-the-art business logic and thinking. Let's talk about the preparation of Braxton Haulcy. What's your story?
Well, here's my story. At the end of 2018, I just hit 60. Mm-hmm. And when I initially went to college, I went to college on a music scholarship. And that was in the 70s, the late 70s. And none of the musicians could find jobs. And that was during the oil embargo and the prime rate up at 22%. Mm-hmm. And so I said to my roommate, was an accounting major, and I said, maybe I should get into business. And so I switched up my majors, moved to Chicago, and then I had, a 40-year career, not only working at General Mills in Pillsbury, but also running a market research firm, and then also heading up business development for a major shopper research firm. And when I hit 60, I kind of said to myself, I want to go back to music. And I ended up, I don't know if you know Miguel Purvis, who owns KP Staffing, but she's a friend of our family's. And I said, I want to go back to music. What do you have? And he said, Walker West. And I said, well, I send my kids over there all the time. I said, that'd be perfect. And yes, that's how I ended up, at Walker West. And then I found that with this 40 years of business experience, and planning and some of those things, that I was just apt to really take the organization to the next level administratively.
Okay. Talk about, your own personal family background. Where were you from? Where were you born?
I'm an Army brat. Mm-hmm. So I guess I would call my home base Fort Sill, Lawton, Oklahoma. Okay. But my father moved overseas, so I was in Germany for a couple of years. He was a West Point cadet instructor, so I was in New York, and probably made some stops in Texas and Georgia, and then came back to Oklahoma. And when I was a music major, I was in Oklahoma, and then I moved up to Chicago because at the time my ex-wife was from Chicago, and I wanted to be closer to her. So I moved up and started a business degree. And ended up working for Amoco before it became BP. Mm-hmm. And then went back to grad school at Purdue in Indiana, and then came back up here to work for Pillsbury, which eventually became General Mills.
Right. Okay. And so have you continued to travel in your corporate career? Did you travel around the world, or was you
Oh
working
yeah.
stateside?
In my previous to coming to Walker West, I mean, I was in China for a month helping them start a research company. So I got a chance to be in Shanghai, Guangzhou, Shenzhen, and really see their culture, go to the Great Wall, go to Tiananmen Square. I was in Scotland, trying to teach people how to do shopper research. I was working with like 1,300 anthropologists across the world to go into stores and observe and interview shoppers. And so, yeah, I was traveling quite a bit. When I wasn't in Minneapolis, I was someplace else.
Mhm. And so what is kind of the learning or the observation that you make that sort of binds all of that into how you see the world today? I'm interested in how you form, a perception of the world, but how that shows up in your work at Walker West as well, and in your personal life. And I say that because I believe that travel is really a rich way uh,
Oh, it
to
is.
to develop your individual self, and it helps us all to know each other and to discover that we are the same everywhere on the planet. That's my discovery. But what's your assessment of it?
Oh, definitely, definitely. I guess one of the things that I've learned in my experience is either you grow or you die.
Hmm.
There's no in between. You can't maintain the status quo. Every day you need to be thinking about how you reinvent, reimagine, and grow because growth supports our community. And I have very much, even though I have an accounting background, um, I remember I had a um, a board member when I was on Phyllis Wheatley, and he always said, "You can't cut your way into success." And I truly believe that. I mean, you got to be growing. If you're not growing, then you're in trouble.
Mhm.
And growth can cover up all the mistakes you make. And I've
Yeah,
made many mistakes.
yeah.
But when you're growing, it's like, oh, okay, that happened. Well, let's keep going.
That's
Uh, and
part of growing. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, definitely. And so that is a philosophy. And I think my team is now getting used to that because I can't sit still. And they're trying to put guardrails around me. Braxton, you just too much. It's too much. That's why when I brought the St. Cloud opportunity to them, I said they're gonna say no so quick that I won't even have to worry about writing a proposal. And they said yes and shocked me. Um, but yeah, I firmly believe in growth. And even when you travel, you're learning, you're opening your mind. And even with my family, I have high expectations for my three sons,
Mhm.
and I expect them to do well.
How
And
old are your sons? How old are your sons?
let's see, I have one that is 28, will be 29 in July.
Mhm.
And then I have 18 and 19-year-olds. The 18 and 19-year-olds, the 19-year-olds at Clark Atlanta.
Mhm.
The 18-year-old is still at home, but he supports the student service area at Walker West, and he is a musician. He plays three instruments and he sings, and he's going to be going to music school at Columbia College in Chicago.
Amazing.
Yep, and then the other son is at Clark Atlanta, and he's studying cybersecurity.
Okay. All right. But prepared for the future.
Yep, and then my other son, he likes to work on cars. He went to school at Dunwoody. He likes to roll up his sleeves and make things happen, make
Mhm.
things work.
Well, got to make you a proud father.
Oh, I am, definitely.
And you have to have the same feeling. And it seems to me that attitude probably is what you also bring to Walker West. I'm having the sense that just as glowingly as you've spoken of your children, your sons, you speak as glowingly of both your team members and the students that all of you serve. And I think you speak that way of our community as well, because you focus on not the challenges, not the problems, not the street and its lure, but you
Hmm.
focus on the power to rise above, to extract ourselves, and to not be permanently crippled, disabled, uh, disregarded by the lures,
Hmm.
of those distractions in the street. I think you embody and reflect the power that we have, right, to continually, as you say, reinvent and grow by doing. Am I
Yeah,
describing you properly?
I would agree with that, and you know, I tell my sons and probably indirectly my team that I want us to be warriors for excellence every day.
Mm.
We may fall short, but don't shoot to be mediocre. Shoot to be above average, and go at it every day, and learn and grow. You know, I guess one of the biggest things that I had is when I was an entrepreneur. You know, the first year and a half, things went well. And then after that year and a half, things fell south. And, you know, it was a struggle. But each day I got up and I did what I could to make it work. And, you know, I always encouraged my team and my family, you know, be warriors for excellence every day, and, you know, shoot for excellence. And that's, you know, the team that's what I'm beginning to see more in my team, because when they took that St. Cloud thing, I was just saying, oh, that just shocked me. It's like, oh, you guys want to grow. Okay, that's good. I like that.
So back to Walker West, what are you doing for the non-traditional students, for not the students in school, but the adults? And this is separate from what you're doing with the elders who are in the choir. What else?
Right.
How else are you engaging adults in the program?
Well, we have an adult ensemble, so we always like to encourage our students to play together.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and we're trying to actually get more Black students in our jazz ensembles and more women in our jazz ensembles. We have an initiative now called Women in Jazz, and we're meeting with different women across the country to figure out how to get more women to be in ensembles and to play in groups. And so that's one of the things that we do. And of course, we have the lessons that we always do. You know, we're doing ukulele group classes. We're doing a number of things for the adults, and Lawrence comes with a wealth of ideas to help adults, even some adults with disabilities.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, we're looking at all areas, and and ultimately what I would like to see, because I'm mentoring somebody in the correctional facilities, I would like to see us in the juvenile detention centers and in the correctional facilities, because that really gives us a unique positioning. You know, you probably will never see a McPhail at Stillwaters,
Right.
but Martha West could be there. Why not? Especially with a third of our young black men being in the correctional system, we should be there, because we know music heals. We know music provides support. It provides health. It provides mental health and well-being, and we need to be everywhere that we are at.
Seems that one of the things that you are demonstrating is that there is a demand for music education, music experience in the community, and that this is a case of building it better, and they will come. And already, you know, people have exceeded your capacity so that there are wait lists, but that in itself is a testament to the value that our people place on both the learning, but I think the spirituality,
Right.
the realm of the spirit that is expressed in music. And so they want to examine that in themselves, is what I think.
Yeah, definitely. Music makes us human. I always tell people, I'm not looking to make Grammy award winning musicians. I'm looking to make Grammy award winning humans. And music makes us human. It allows us to express passion and emotion. And the thing that I'm really on, probably the next thing once I get past this capital campaign, is we got to get music back into the schools, in the elementary and middle school levels in the Twin Cities, because we're still living with the No Child Left Behind legacy, where music and sports was taken out of school. And what I contend with people is that music is not a nice to have.
Mm-hmm.
It's a need to have. It's foundational to learning, and especially foundational to learning for our Black youth, because, I mean, music is in our DNA.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you want to engage learning and want to have kids want to come to school, then you need to have music in those schools, because that supports academic support. And I tell people all the time, my testimony is I was a DNF student in second grade. My mom enrolled me in piano, and I went from D's and F's to A's, and then graduated in college on the dean's list. So that's my testimony. And so I believe if that works for me, it can work for anybody else.
Do you take time to reflect on the relationship between African people and music, our Africanity? I do a lot of reading right now in the realm of Africana way of knowing. And the proposition is that there are other ways to assemble or perceive the world outside of the models that appear to be predominant at the moment, that the world itself has a history that predates obviously the modern colonial, post-colonial empire
Right.
age, but there are things that we have done and have been and things that we are and will be, but we have to be encouraged to know, to think, to study, and to practice. What do you think?
I totally agree with that. And I know, like, for instance, I don't know if you ever got a chance to watch Kevin Washington's concert, but Kevin Washington is a stellar drummer, not only in the Twin Cities, but across the country. And he always is enlightening me about things going on in Africa and the drumming and where these things originated from and how the sound is and how those things work. And, you know, the thing about Walker West that makes us unique is that we do both ear and eye training.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, if you go to a traditional music school, they're going to see, here's the notes, read them with your eyes and read the notations. At Walker West, we want to engage you by listening first, because we've heard good musicians listen.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you listen, you learn how to listen, you learn how to pick up the tones with the ear.
Mm-hmm.
Then, you know, we get you the eyes. And then here's the notes for that.
Mm-hmm.
And then that just raises your level of musicianship. And it also increases your engagement. And, you know, and one of the things that, you know, like, for instance, my son, who broke my heart, told me he didn't like jazz. But you know, his first teacher, he says, I don't want to learn jazz and I don't want to learn classical. I want to learn Beyonce or Stevie Wonder. And that's what they started him with. And so they played some Stevie Wonder, and then they tricked him and said, okay, here's some Bach, here's some Beethoven. Okay, here's some Beyonce now.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's magic the way they, you know, the way the faculty at Walker West really works to engage these students and make it a student-centered learning versus here, I'm going to tell you what you need to know and I'm going to tell you what you need to learn. And so that way of teaching is probably part of the reason why we have that vibe that, you know, kids that might go to other music schools and are miserable, they come to Walker West and they have, you know, Grant, you know, sitting up there and say, we're going to play the knuckle song. And by the time we get done with this lesson, you will know how to play the piano. And then you can go and show off in front of your friends. I mean, it's just that kind of magic thing where you could just talk to the kids and they say, oh, I don't believe I'm going to know how to play a song by the end of this 30 minutes. And 30 minutes, they know how to play a song, and then they go show off with their friends. And it's that kind of thing that just builds the self-esteem, confidence, and things of that sort, which is not only good for music, but it's good for life skills.
I'm a writer by training, and what I love about being a writer, a journalist, is that as I practice my craft, either with the pen and lead or even on the keyboard, there are moments when I hit the zone and where I know I'm writing, but something else is happening too.
Right.
I think you described it as listening. I'm listening, and I'm writing what I'm listening to. And it could be even in a news story, but it's more than just journalism. It's something different. And to me, it's kind of a moment that is special, that is kind of transformative. And I ask musicians when I interview them, because I study, and I love to see performers do their work. And as often as I can, I discover when musicians hit a place, a point, a zone, it's
Right.
like they have transformed, and it's no longer that individual, but that body is an expression and a conduit for something bigger and greater that has timelessness and a universal truth. Do you discover that? Do you discover students' ability to discover that creative process in their own lives as a teacher at Walker West?
Oh, yes. And I don't teach there, but I see the faculty's work with students and I see their advancement and their excitement. And it's, you know, it's wonderful to see someone grow right before your eyes. We have a couple of graduating seniors, and I went in to congratulate them, and they told me, "Well, I'm going to music school, and when I come back, can I get a job at Walker West?" And I said, when you when you hear that, that means they really have enjoyed their experience, they've grown, and they want to bring it back to our community.
Mhm. Well, that's a good story. Any events coming up? We're running out of time here. It's been a great interview. I'm enjoying the conversation
Oh,
with
and me
you.
likewise.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to have and maybe
Yeah.
you can do a couple of things.
Mhm.
Your good friends, Amazing Grace Chorus is going to have a major concert sponsored by Minnesota Humanities Center
Mhm.
on June the 11th at Fellowship Baptist Church from 4 to 6. And we're
Okay.
trying to get the community to come out. And part of it is we want to get everybody to come out, but we really want to educate people about dementia and Alzheimer's. And so there's going to be a health fair there, and then there'll be music, phenomenal music.
Mhm.
And so that's one thing to look about. And then the one thing that's coming up early, and which I would love to see you come, Al, if you can, we're having a donor cultivation event. And we're not really asking for money, but we want to open up the space to the community, and we want them to see the new space and see Walker West as the new tenant, not the tenant, but the new owner of the building.
That's right.
The new owner of the building, and just we're going to make it a celebratory event. We'll have music on the outside, New Orleans style music on the outside. We'll have a 4 or 5 year old drummer playing with Kevin, showcasing his skill. We might have our Camoinge string ensemble playing in the garden in the back. And we've invited probably about 2,000 to 3,000 people. We're hoping to get maybe out of that, maybe 200 people that show up and help celebrate us in the community.
What date is that going to be?
I'm sorry. That's June 1st, and it'll be from 5:30 to 7:30.
Give us a phone number or a website where people can keep connected to Walker West.
Our regular student service number is 651-224-2929. If folks want to reach out to ask and inquire questions, you can go to info@walkerwest.org. And then we have our student service and outreach manager, who is phenomenal. Her name is Marie Flowers. And I can't remember Marie's telephone number, but I'll give you her email. It's Marie, Marie, @walkerwest.org. And Marie will hook you up with whatever you need.
Listen, Brother Braxton Haulcy, so good to see you again. And like I said, what a wonderful conversation. I can't wait till I get over to see your facility, and keep up the good work. And we'll keep doing this. I think this is important. This is not the last time. This is the beginning.
Yes, well, I totally agree, because it's all about relationships.
Yep, absolutely. Well, thank you, brother.
Okay, thank you. Have a good one.
Same to
Bye
you.
now.
Bye-bye. So I'm Al McFarlane. What a wonderful conversation with Brother Braxton Haulcy over at Walker West. We'll be here again tomorrow. We want you to be here with us. Join us again for the Conversation with Al McFarlane. Finally, once again, we want to say that this program is made possible in part with the support of the Minnesota Department of Health and their COVID-19 awareness and outreach. And we want to be constantly inviting you to go online to insidenews.com, read Inside News, find out what's happening in keeping you and your family safe. Even though we've declared that the COVID-19 pandemic is over, we still are at risk. We still have to take precautions. Find out how. I'm Al McFarlane. We'll see you next time.